Today we are going to talk about evolution. What is evolution? Definitions of evolution. What is evolution? Evolution is a change of inheritable traits in a population over generations. Change in traits is caused by change in the genes, in DNA, that code for those traits. Natural selection tends to increase favorable traits in a population and decrease unfavorable traits. And what evolution isn't. Many people argue against evolution based on statements they have heard. Yet many of those statements are ideas that are not part of evolutionary theory. Evolution is not about things getting better and better or more and more complex. Selection is about survival and reproduction. Organisms with traits that helps them survive long enough to reproduce will pass their genes on. Evolution is not about organisms trying to adapt. Trying doesn't change genes. Only inheritable traits already in a population can be passed on. Evolution doesn't give organisms what they need. If that were true, there would never be deaths or species extinctions. If individuals have traits that help them survive environmental change, they may pass those traits on while others die. Evolution doesn't mean that individuals in a population slowly change. Change happens to populations over generations as those with unfavorable traits are weeded out and those with favorable traits are more likely to reproduce. Evolution isn't a theory of how life began. Evolution explains how living organisms change over generations. Evolution is a scientific theory. Theories are evidence-supported explanations for natural phenomena. To exist, theories must have abundant evidence from many well-tested hypotheses. Theories grow from evidence. Theorizing without evidence isn't science. Early ideas. While many people associate evolution with Darwin, other scientists were talking about organic change long before Darwin published in his Theory of Natural Selection. Early ideas. Aristotle viewed the living world as fixed and unchanging. All living things could be arranged in a ladder from inferior to superior, with humans on top. Aristotle's views influenced thought for over 2,000 years. Curiosity about fossils around the 16th century led to new questions. Were fossils the remains of organisms? If they were, what did they say about species being unchanging? George Louis Leclerc, Comte de Buffon, sought a naturalistic explanation for fossils. Buffon devised one of the first theories of organic change. However, Buffon's ideas were grounded in logic rather than in evidence from the natural world, as much science was at the time. James Hutton and Charles Lyell. These two naturalists are best known for the theory of uniformitarianism, proposed by Hutton and expanded by Lyell. Uniformitarianism states that the physical laws that now shape the Earth have always done so, and that the past can be understood by studying the present. Both suggested that the Earth is very old. Judge Quivers was a student of Buffon but disagreed about organic change. Quivers was an anatomist. He pointed out that animals had features that helped them survive. Quivers doubted uniformitarianism and used catastrophism to explain the fossils of the Paris Basin. He proposed one natural origin of life, followed by unpredictable catastrophes, perhaps beyond known physical laws. After each catastrophe, organisms from other places moved in. Jean-Baptiste Lamarck. was also a student of Buffon. Like Buffon, Lamarck sought a naturalistic explanation for the diversity of modern organisms and the animals seen in the fossil record. Lamarck's organic theory of development: organisms are shaped by their environment. Change is goal-directed. Organisms have an internal drive to become more and more complex. Use and disuse of paths cause change that is passed on from generation to generation. Charles Darwin. Darwin and Wallace, working separately, devised a model for organic change that was based on their observations of living and fossil organisms over many years. Natural selection was the first evidence-based mechanism for evolution that was proposed. Darwin and Wallace observed that change didn't happen equally to all members of a population, as Buffon and Lamarck taught. Evidence for evolution. Both Darwin and Wallace were convinced that evolution, change in the traits of a population over time, did happen. Darwin spent over 20 years collecting evidence and reading research by others before he wrote on the origin of species. He found many features of organisms that suggested they were related by ancestry. Fossils. Fossils slow natural geologic processes dating of rocks by elemental analysis. In many groups of organisms, fossils demonstrated change from one form to another over long periods of time.